when others think I ought to throw it in, because my labor is not in vain, because I've got the grace of God. Can I break it down a little bit more? The reason I do what I do and face the things that I face, because I am more than a conqueror, because I've got the grace of God. For the word says no weapon formed against me will ever prosper. That's the power of grace. When you feel like giving up, when you feel like laying down, when you feel like not being bothered, the grace of God will knock on your door. Say, stand up and step out, for I'm with you. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. But he says finally in verse 10, but the grace of God which was in me. It's not in my neighbor, not on the pew, not on the organ, but it's in me. In him I live, I move, and have my being. Somebody's wondering what's the matter with you. The gospel of grace says it's good news when you're going through. His grace is sufficient. I can't understand how the devil attacks us so, but grace will see me through. Anybody in this place ever cried yourself to sleep trying to figure out if God would show up? But I heard the songwriter say, Brother Penn, he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. Isn't that good news? He may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. I said the gospel of grace. Secondly, faith in the gospel of grace. You got to believe that God will do just what he says. Faith is a substance of things hoped for. It is the evidence of things not seen. I can't see how he blesses me, but he blesses me right on. At the trial and tribulation, God still shows up. There's a final thing, the effect of grace. Anybody has the effect of grace in your life? He soothes all of our fears. He calms all of our doubts. You can't make me doubt him, because the ever effect of Jesus is in my life. Robert, they wonder what is grace. Grace is nothing but Jesus in our lives. That's why when the enemy shoots his fiery darts, we're able to quench the fiery darts of the wicked. Some of you are wondering, what are you talking about? You've been so down. You were shoe-heeled down. Couldn't find your way. But grace from sin, he lifted you. And now safe of you. Anybody here been sick? Been sick myself for about 4 weeks, but I've never, because of his grace, seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Sister Mary, some folk were telling me to slow down and lay down and sit down, but I knew on the inside healing was already in place. Some of you will sit down when God is telling you to move. Sometimes your healing, your deliverance is not in the sitting down, but the getting up and the going out and the touching of lives. That's why I know his grace, God's unmerited favor, is alive and well. I need somebody who understands the effects of his grace to stand up. How many of you, you've been down, but grace picked you up? How many of you couldn't find a job, but had a little talk with Jesus, told him all about your trouble? He heard your cry. He answered. That's the effects of grace. He'll answer your prayer. Dottie People says he's an on-time God. Anybody here know he's an on-time God? You tried him on at the gates of hell. He turned you around, pick you up, place. Hey, hey, hey. He placed your feet on solid ground. As I bring this little talk to a close about the power of grace. Grace died. The obituary written about grace. Grace died. Nails in his hands. Grace died. Nails in his feet. Grace died. With the spear stuck up his side. Grace died. With the crown of thorns on his head. Grace was taken down from the old rugged cross. Grace was placed in a borrowed tomb. Grace stayed there 3 days, one for the Father, one for the Son, one for the Holy Ghost. But blessed be God, on the third day morning, grace got up. All power, heaven and earth in his hands. The power of grace says, you may be down, but hold on, your help is on the way. Healing in grace's hands. Healing in grace's hands. Deliverance is in grace's hands. Who is grace? J-E-S-U-S. Mary's baby. That's our grace. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All of the ground. And I found out that the song Beverly is true about grace. Some of y'all trying to figure out what I'm saying. Sister Thompson, that song is true about grace. For it says, amazing. How sweet the sound. The song is true about grace. He's amazing. And how sweet the sound of grace walking in your life. Didn't the song say how sweet the sound that saved? For I once were lost, but grace found me on my wayward street. And since grace found me, now I'm found. Grace saw that I had some impurities and couldn't see my way. I once was blind. But grace came by, touched my eyes, and now grace taught my heart to fear, not of man but of God. My grace. And if I live right, grace will lead me. Anybody know that grace is amazing? Amazing grace, how sweet